All right. Hello. Welcome to our discussion of Madship by Robin Hobb, the second book in the the second book of the Liveship Traders, the fifth book in the Realm of the Elderling series. We have got Shell, Magda, Mom. I don't know if those are going to come in the right order when it's actually... But we've got an amazing crew. I am so excited for us to talk about this. It has been a long time coming.
5 months. I read it earlier when I rewatched our old one.
You can't hide, Amy.
Nope, not with this group.
Now, how long ago did you finish this?
Several months.
We'll go around and give us your rating and then tell us briefly what you think. We'll start with Mom since she's our newbie. What are you doing?
No, don't start with me because I gotta see what I gave it. I don't remember.
Okay, we'll go with Magda. Magda, give us your rating and tell us what you think.
I gave this one a 4-star as I did the first one. It wasn't quite a 5-star, but it was definitely much better than the first one. I can't even remember. No, what was the first one called?
Ship of Magic.
Ship of Magic. Okay, thank you. I think we made some progress, but there are still a lot of questions I have that were not answered.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely some growth in some of the characters, which I really liked.
Yes. Oh yeah, I can't wait to talk about that.
I'm still mostly fascinated with the serpents and with Vivacia and Paragon, even though, I've seen growth in characters and we're seeing some advancement. We didn't get as far as I expected with some of the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little disappointed with that. I guess overall that would kind of touches on everything for me without saying anything.
Yeah.
I gave it 5 stars. I actually like this better than the first one. I was fascinated by, is Paragon the mad guy that was on the sand forever?
Yes.
He fascinated me in the first book. And so I was really excited to see him in the second book. For some reason, I'm totally fascinated by this grumpy old ship, and I'm just like, what's his story? Did he kill people? I was just so curious about him. And then Magda, the same thing. This book referenced the underwater serpent so many times. I thought there's got to be something going on with those serpents. And so I was very curious to see what the heck is going on with these serpents. And then, of course, the piece of wood that is, that they found.
Wizard wood. Yeah.
Yeah, wizard wood. I just was so fascinated. I couldn't put it down. I just kept reading it. And I mean, I didn't get to be in the discussion with you guys with the first book, but this book, I'm just so excited to be here because I was so fascinated with the ideas of this mad ship. I mean, just he's either crazy as hell or people just don't know his story,
I gave it 5 stars. I gave the first book 5 stars as well. So there was definitely some parts of this book that made me super uncomfortable. I had a hard time with, I had to put the book down for a while during part of it. But I decided that wouldn't affect my rating because if a book can make me that uncomfortable, clearly it's written pretty well.
Yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars. I did love Ship of Magic more than this one. The pacing for that one worked out a little bit better for me. For this one, it did take me a while to get into it. Even then, the pacing throughout this, it did feel like so where within the first trilogy, I felt like the middle book, Royal Assassin, was my favorite book, and it didn't feel like a middle book. This one to me did feel like a middle book, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because you're continuing the story, but the pacing was a little slower in this one for my enjoyment. I have the opposite thing as all of, well, I don't know about Shell, but the parts that I'm least interested in are actually the serpents. Those parts are hard for me because I'm like, they're not as enjoyable for me. So I kind of struggle through those parts a little bit. I do still love all the characters. I love some of the changes in the characters. Like that was really big. And that's where I really started getting into this book. We're seeing some of the changes, seeing some of the actions, things. So much happens in Madship. And that was exciting. So that was exciting. And I did like where it went. It was just that there were parts of it that were a little slower for me, but still 4.5. Like, I still love it. I'm still loving this series, and I'm so excited to now get into Ship of Destiny because I feel like we're in the perfect place to continue on this series.
I had mentioned in the last video that because I'm so fascinated with the ships themselves and with the serpents, that I thought I had read something similar to this before. And as it turns out, it's actually the Rainwild series that's coming up. So when we get there, it'll be a reread for me. And maybe that's why I'm so fascinated, because this is kind of like the start of, I'm getting some echo here, sorry.
Yeah, I'm hearing feedback.
I think this is kind of coming a little bit more to the origins of what that will eventually be. And maybe that's why I'm so fascinated by it.
Yeah. And I am more interested in the She Who Remembers, like the Oracle or whatever. Not the Oracle. Those guys were the Oracle. She Who Remembers. I'm interested in her. So like when she came into the story, that was when I got more interested in the serpents. But yeah, I don't know why. I guess I'm more interested in the you know, like you guys are like the dragons, and I'm like the characters.
It's, you know, it's basically, it's a setup for that next series is what it basically is.
Yeah.
Right. So it's giving you enough snippets to get you ready for that. I have no way of knowing how to fix that feedback, you guys. I'm sorry. And I will also be interested to find out how the other part of this series eventually ties in to the whole elderling thing. Because, you know, the 6 duchies are referenced, but not a lot. But I did notice a reference in this book, and I think it's Amber that's originally from the 6 duchies.
Yeah.
I think so too.
But
Yeah, I had to say the same thing. They felt like 2 different series.
Mhm.
And Amy actually showed me a map and tried to explain where everything fit in.
right, and not Jamelia, but the other
Chalced, the Chalcedian.
yeah. I know that they're referenced in like the first trilogy and the
Mhm.
Farseer trilogy. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see if it ties in any more than that, or if that's the only tie-ins.
Yeah, because I know that the Chalcedians are disliked by the 6 duchies.
Ducky?
No, it's for Shell.
No. I'm with Shell. It's the 6 duckies.
I know that the Chalcedians are really looked down upon by the six duchies as well because of their slaveholding tendencies, and that's also the problem that, well, and the fact that they're such bullies, and that's the problem that Bingtown traders are having with the Chalced. And same with Jamelia had before this satrap, but you know, Chalced is
Right.
like these big bullies, and they're the slaveholders, and they're just the ones who are changing everything and trying to cause problems. I think that there's a connection there, especially with Cerelia coming in, which.
Well, and I think the other reference was in regards to the blood plague that we ended up having in the 6 duchies. There was a slight reference to that, so maybe that's another tie-in.
Is that sickness that in the first?
Yeah. I still
totally
see
don't
how,
remember.
because they haven't.
I
God,
don't
I'm so.
remember.
So Shelley, you've wiped out the first 3 series out of your mind. The first 3 books.
Of what?
You've wiped out the first 3 books about the 6 duchies out of your mind. Sound like you said you don't remember anything.
I don't remember the blood plague. I remember quite a bit. I mean, I don't remember everything, but I remember a lot of the main plot points and whatnot.
Wasn't the blood plague, Amy, what the red ships or those other people from another land were giving, and everybody was turning into those
Yeah.
the dead people?
Yeah.
That wasn't the blood
that
plague.
wasn't the blood plague.
That was
Oh,
something
what?
different.
Yeah. Forging
Okay.
was because of those, which was
Stones.
interesting. They're not, well, we can talk about that because I really want to talk about that, about those dragons, quote unquote.
That seemed completely different from these dragons.
They aren't dragons. They're not. We learn about it from the rainwater. Well, let's wait until.
Sorry, hold on.
No, that's
Almost
okay.
there.
No problem.
They are dragons. You saying they're not elderlings?
They're not dragons. They're not real dragons. They're effigies of dragons. They've been created by the elderlings, created them to honor the dragons, and then they put their soul into them. They're not actually dragons. They're
Okay.
Amy
I get
had
what
to
you're saying.
explain that to me too, because I thought they were real dragons.
I get what you're saying. I vaguely recall that.
yeah.
I love it, Magda. You've been going all the way around in circle.
No. No, but you look like you got a lot to say.
I'm back.
I'm trying to think about this book, and so much happens in it. Like, I was just looking, I kind of like did a little bit of like a looking towards the beginning, and I'm like, Sa'adar. I completely forgot about him because he died so early on in this book. So it's just so crazy.
Are we to spoilers now then?
I mean, it's the second book in a series. We're spoilery all the way.
Yeah, there's not much we can talk about that isn't spoiler on the middle book.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I don't remember who Sadar is.
I don't either. Who ain't?
He was that jerky priest guy, you know, the other.
Oh yeah, no, never mind. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who like is very holier than thou, but he was also just really conniving and such a manipulative. Oh, I didn't like him at all. So where do you guys want to start?
Well, since you mentioned him, didn't he also die when the little boy's father gets put into, he's captured somewhere and kept on an island with.
Oh yeah, Kenneth's Island, the island that his father started, that was supposed to be like his own little utopia in a sense.
Right.
So he left him with his mom.
Yeah, wasn't that screwed up? Like,
And I don't,
Well, he didn't kill him. I mean, he didn't kill him. I'm glad he's there. I hate that guy. I'm glad.
I would have preferred him dead because I have a feeling he'll be back at some point.
he's going to
No
be
point
back.
keeping him alive unless he gets out.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
his poor daughter loves him and wants him
I don't
back.
give a crap.
Yeah. So Wintro is so annoying sometimes. Like, I like Wintro, but he is so annoying with I don't know, because he's right. Like, in a lot of ways he's right, and so it's frustrating because I'm like, Wintro's making things worse and making things more difficult, but at the same time Wintro's the only one who has like a true sense of morality. So frustrating.
But Malta.
Oh,
She
you know-
made the most dramatic change, I think.
yeah.
That
Oh yeah.
that was unexpected. That was unexpected. Yeah.
When you were kind of hinting at things, I was kind of like, oh, there's no way I could feel anything different for Malta. And
Yeah.
what a transformation. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah.
That was shocking.
It was.
Yeah, it really was.
But it was really well done. It wasn't like an immediate switch over. It was
Right.
a slow, gradual change. And all of a sudden I was like, I went from hating this girl,
Yeah.
wanting to slap this girl, to having a grudging respect for her and ending up liking her.
Yeah.
It was so crazy.
She's like the smartest person I've ever been.
It's so crazy. And it makes sense because she was so young and how she was raised. I mean, it totally makes sense. But man, did I hate her in that first book.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it was a general progression because at first you would kind of see glimpses of it and then kind of revert back.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but then gradually she was like being more normal and then occasionally slipping back into the old Malta.
Mhm.
And then in the end, I actually loved it when she had the satyr and Fifi or Kiki or whatever, and how they were acting and how, she was
Yeah.
responding. Because
Man, I would have killed him. I don't know why
she was
she didn't drown
completely
him.
those characters in the first book, and now she's just like, I can't believe these people.
Well, I definitely credit her grandmother. Her mom was not a help for her, but her grandmother, I think, helped her to get more grounded, by making her do the books and making her do something and making her start to realize her life wasn't just about, she wasn't the center of everybody's attention, but her mom wasn't much help. And of course, her dad, I was so glad he was out of the picture because he made her such a brat.
Yeah. But I also think, as much as he didn't care for her Aunt Althea, I think some of what Althea is and has done kind of cuts through and made an impression on her as well, to be more independent.
I think she was actually really envious of Althea the whole time. Like, I think that she was disappointed they didn't have a relationship in a way that she didn't know how to express. Like, I really think she was very envious of Althea, and she didn't want to be like her, because obviously Malta had these ideas of what she wanted to be. But I think that she saw what Althea got to do, and she knew that she didn't have the same freedom. So I think that she was envious of Althea for that just
Independence that she has. Yeah.
I agree.
So Althea and those two boys, I really like the boy that
Braxton and
Greg.
And who?
Greg.
Is he the one that lives in the wild woods or wherever it's called? I like that boy.
That's
the other
Rain.
boy, I like the
rainforest. You're still talking with Malta.
Yeah.
Malta and her two boys are Rain, Cooper, and
Serwyn.
Serwyn. Yeah.
Is Serwyn the one that had the sister? That she really
and that was just creepy.
So
well, and then in the end when Serwyn comes, oh no, never mind, that's the next book.
Well, I don't know, but I know that I kept thinking, I don't know that she likes either of them here at the end, but I really liked the guy that was, lived in the rainforest or whatever he lived.
If she likes anybody, that's who she likes.
Yeah. She was a very frustrating character.
I don't know that she stopped liking him. I just got the impression that she grew up. She no longer has that idealized vision of him.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's still a chance that relationship could develop. She definitely liked him more than the other one.
Yeah.
She respected him
she
more.
no longer, she's more taking Althea's path now. She knows that she can be a strong woman herself.
Right.
Well, and I think Rain shot himself in the foot when he did not stand up for her right away. Like, she needed his support. He wasn't there for her. Granted, he was youth. He was immature in his own way. Like, even though he came across as being more mature than Serwyn, he still was young and dumb. And so, but she expected so much more from him than he gave to her at that time that she was most in need.
Right. I mean, they both didn't stand up for her. They both, lacked in that sense. But I think because we think Rain is, he is a little bit older, and two, I think we all expected more from him than he was able to give. And we don't know enough of the politics between him and his family, which we're starting to get a little bit of, but
I didn't expect more from him.
No,
his whole thing with the dragon, I didn't expect more from him.
Oh, good point.
Oh, okay.
Because he wouldn't help the dragon, or because
he felt for the dragon. He could he knew it was sentient, but he could not stand up to anybody to do anything. And he was just like, I can't do anything. And I kind of lost all respect for him.
Malta tried.
Yeah, because it's interesting because as soon as Malta, went over to her to, strike this whole deal, and the amount of work that she put into trying to free the dragon was actually pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So she has become a much stronger character.
Yes.
Yeah. She don't need any guys.
I mean, I think that's true for most of the female characters in this story. You know, the females are the strong ones. The males are the weak ones. It sounds terrible, but if you think about it,
No, it's
You're
yeah.
right. You're right.
even with Brashen is finally overcoming his demons, but he only does that because Amber like kicks him in the butt and says, "What are you doing? You're standing in your own way." And then with Kennett's always fighting his own inner demons. What's his companion? Whatever. her name is.
I think it's Elta.
Yeah, she's strong. She's really strong. Oh, and
You're right. She just
can we talk about Kenneth trying to get her and Wintro to procreate?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That wasn't surprising,
really?
but it's dumb.
Yeah.
Get where he's coming from. I totally got where he was coming from. But the fact that he thinks Elta's just going to go along with it
Yeah. No.
shows how corrupted his vision of love is.
Yeah.
Really, it shows how weak he is in that respect, that he thinks that.
We know he somewhat cares for her. I don't know if he actually loves her. He loves Vivacia. And he's looking to find basically Wintra's replacement, right? Because the baby would be of Wintra's blood, which means, you know, he would be the next, he or she would be the next traitor, you know, whatever you want to call them at that point.
So we're saying that Kenneth's probably pretty intelligent because he has figured all this out.
Oh, he is.
He's intelligent.
Very
He's
intelligent.
dumb about a lot of things, but he's intelligent. Oh, and her name's Etta, Etta.
Etta, that's right.
Etta.
Yeah. Kenneth's emotionally screwed up. Like, he's very intelligent, but he doesn't have any emotional understanding whatsoever.
He had a rough childhood.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
so
and we still don't know exactly what that was, but obviously.
I think I know.
What?
Okay.
He was raped, wasn't he?
By that other pirate,
Yeah.
Ivan, or whatever.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
that was definitely meant.
And Ivan's the one who I'm thinking, okay, this is me, just my guesses, because I haven't read the second one yet. I mean, I know I started it, but we did not get nothing anywhere near this. I think, well, I shouldn't be doing predictions already. But I think that Ivan kidnapped the mad ship, which is, what's his name? What's the mad ship's name?
Paragon.
He's the one that kidnapped, because remember, Ivan had kidnapped a live ship. And I think when Paragon wouldn't do what he wanted to do, he blinded him. Ivan did that.
That's what Amy was telling me. Yeah. Because
I got it. But yeah, Kenneth, I mean, doesn't excuse some of his behavior or whatnot, but Kenneth went through some shit. So it's
Yes.
no wonder that he's as emotionally stunted as he is.
And yet, you know, it's what keeps me intrigued is his whole thought process on slaves, and that he's actually going out there and freeing the slaves. And even
At
though
first he didn't care.
he doesn't want to. His first mate's the one that started.
Yeah,
all this.
he
That's
started.
true.
He didn't care at first. I think that he has a glimmer of good in him,
Yeah.
and he acts all blustery and doesn't want to do anything. But I think the longer that he does it, he's convinced himself that it's because he's good. Like he wants to help the slaves now. He did it for a good reason, to unite the pirate isles.
Right. They're going to be his people. He's going to be king, and they're going to be his people.
That's
Yeah,
so
I
very
know.
self-serving, though.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is completely.
Oh yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
like, I think he's kind of slowly convinced himself in his mind that he is going to be a great ruler. And, you know, I'm not saying he is going to, but I'm
No.
pretty sure
I'm
he's-
just, I'm laughing. I'm
Thinking
laughing.
if there's anything left of him, he's just falling apart. He's just losing a leg. It's like he's being taken to pieces. What's going to be left of him to rule?
yeah.
Yeah.
I
He
think
gets
there's-
beat up.
I think there's a glimmer of good in him.
There's a glimmer of good, but then again, you know, when he went to his old island, right, and his mom is living there by herself, can't speak because she doesn't have a tongue. And, you know, I think she's trying to say, hey, I want off this island or something to that effect. And he's like completely ignoring whatever she's trying to get across to him and saying, oh,
intentionally.
look, I brought you a helper, and, you know, you're going to have some other people here on the island and they're going to have a baby. And I brought you a priest. And she's just like, no.
He blames her for something, doesn't he?
I think
Maybe-
so.
Do you think she gave him up to
I
that other
can't-
pirate?
I can't remember, but part of it, I mean, he's taking care of her and everything, but he blames her for something drastically from his childhood.
So he's
I
punishing
don't
her.
remember, huh?
He's punishing
Well,
her then.
Yeah,
He wasn't
part of him
protected.
is punishing her.
Yeah, he wasn't protected. If what happened to him, his mom and dad didn't protect him.
Well, I don't remember the reasoning, but I do remember there
Yeah.
was something that he blames her for. So he'll protect her and he'll keep her safe, but he's also punishing her.
I mean,
Or
that
what
whole
she did.
situation was so screwed up that made me uncomfortable. That whole island scene was really.
Yeah.
No, there was other parts of this book that made me uncomfortable. That
Well,
part didn't
I know,
make me
I know.
uncomfortable.
I know, but
I'm curious. What makes you guys uncomfortable? What am I missing? I didn't get
The
uncomfortable.
satrap, the rape,
Yeah.
all
Oh.
of that,
Yeah.
of that.
Oh,
As soon as he started threatening her and the power trips, I had to put the book down. I was like, this is not going to go anywhere I want it to go, and
I
it
was
didn't.
pissed when- I was pissed when he gave her to the captain, but
Oh my God, that was so hard to read. I had such a hard time with that.
I was pissed, but I guess I didn't think anything else but being really angry that he was such a bastard to do that.
Oh,
it was
Oh.
awful.
oh, it
Yeah,
was,
that was
it
awful.
Yeah.
But
And
then
I hate
Serena,
him now more than I hate the other guy.
But what's-
I hate him more than I hate any other guy.
Oh, like I said, I was hoping that Malta would drown him because I think he doesn't deserve to live, and I think that
Oh, I was hoping.
yeah, I was-
She doesn't know everything
That's
he's done though.
first. She what?
She doesn't know everything he's done. She knows he's
Oh.
an ass, and the way he was acting towards Malta was
Creepy.
creepy and horrible. And so she doesn't. I mean, she knows he's,
You're right. I guess she
Icky.
doesn't know the whole story.
but she doesn't know the whole thing. So I couldn't blame her for not killing him. Man, did I want him to die.
you know what's annoying about him is he doesn't realize he's the bad guy.
He's so drugged out of his freaking mind.
Drugged all the time. That
Well-
man is on drugs all the time.
But not even that. He's been led to believe his whole life that he is in the right.
Yeah. First, he's completely spoiled and not disciplined or whatever when he was growing up because he was the satire's son or whatever, heir, satrap, sorry. And then he, you know, at a young age becomes a satyr, and, you know, he believes he's supposed to get everything that he wants. And
So
then he
disgusting.
also gets blissed out on drugs and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because he was surprised when Cirilla came back and she was angry at him. And he's like, what are you so upset about? What is wrong with you? We know
Oh,
what's
I
wrong.
wanted her to stab him too, man. I really
Oh,
wanted
I
her
know.
to stab him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's just got that goal in mind. She just wants to get to Bingtown. So
But what happened to her? I forgot.
She's
what was the
getting all weird. Oh, wait.
what happened to her at the
she
beginning?
doesn't know what book she's talking about anymore.
I know.
Yeah, what happened to her at
Um,
the end of Madship?
I don't know. Honestly, I
I-
don't know because we
I
know
remember her
that.
leaving the boat. I think I remember her leaving the boat and going to talk to somebody.
Yeah,
Okay,
she
that's
did.
where we're at with her. Okay, good to know. Then I'll-
But other than that, I don't know because she wasn't kidnapped with the satyr and Kiki.
No,
Taking you
No,
out.
she
she-
left
oh.
them.
she did something at the ball. She gave a warning to people at the ball.
Who
That's-
was it?
yeah,
There was a
yeah.
guy she warned.
Yeah, she went off with Greg and the group. Greg and Rain, they all went off to basically start whatever it was that started.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's right. So did she end up going to Rain Wilds?
No,
No.
I don't think no.
No, I don't
Okay,
think so
Amy,
either.
if she's in the Ran Wilds at the beginning of the first book, then she went off. I mean, the third book, then she went off to the Ran Wilds in the middle one.
But I don't know. I don't remember her getting rescued. They only
I think she went off with them, which makes sense that she went off to the Ran Wilds.
But Greg didn't go to the Rain Wild either. He was never in the Rain Wild.
Yeah,
and
he
neither
was.
did Grandma. All it was
I thought they all went.
Malta, her mother, and somebody else.
Greg went off to the Rain Wild. Remember, he was on that ship with Rain.
Yeah, I think they all went off.
Except for that asshole, that guy that was. Remember the man that. Should I said asshole?
Which asshole? There's so many
The
assholes.
one-
There's a whole
in this
bunch of
book.
assholes.
The guy
mean the
that
uncle
was,
one
that,
that
was the
died?
best friend with the family. You know, that man that was the best friend that would take him to everywhere, but he had
Oh,
the uncle.
Devon.
Didn't
Who
he
was
die?
he?
Yeah.
Yes, he died. I was so happy. He got killed when they dumped the carriage.
I didn't hate him that much. I mean, he made some really bad decisions, and he was greedy, and he made some, but he wasn't
Which he worked.
evil.
He wasn't
He was
malicious.
dumb.
I think
He
the
wasn't malicious.
doctors were a little too forgiving of him, but yeah. No, he
He
wasn't
was-
complete evil. He was just
I don't know. How could he be that dumb? How could he be that absolute dumb that he kept fighting for the wrong things? He was that dumb?
he was greedy. He was trying to
Greedy
get
and dumb.
himself back in good graces, and he was trying to get money. But that's not necessarily dumb. That's just self-serving.
Self-serving. I still say he was dumb, but
Yeah.
I,
To me, he was one of the bad characters that was not as bad as the other bad characters.
oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
There are worse, but for some reason he rubbed me wrong because he just kept thwarting goodness.
Because of his stupidity.
Nothing-
And the longer we knew more of him, the more I disliked him.
He
I
couldn't
guess.
stop being stupid.
Yeah, mom has no
And he
patience for
did-
stupidity, apparently.
I guess what saved him for me in terms of like, I didn't, oh, he needs to die. Like, I was fine with him dying. It didn't bother me, but I didn't like wish his death only because he did truly care about them. Despite all the stupid decisions he made, he did
Yeah.
truly care about Raina and the family.
I
You think so?
I started feeling like his purposes were more important than that family, because he certainly wasn't helping them towards the end. He was, I mean, I guess he was trying to help them escape at the very, very end, but at that point he deserved it.
I do truly feel he cared for all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the way he thought that he was helping them, he genuinely thought he was helping them. He genuinely thought he was helping Malta by introducing her to the satrap, because to him,
Yeah.
but he doesn't know that. To him, who is a better person to make an alliance with than the ruler of the country that you guys actually are under? They're still under Jamalia. Whether or not they have the charter, they still have to answer to Jamalia. They still have to answer to the satrap. So like, what an amazing alliance to have with a friend of your family, someone you do care about, with the ruler of that place. Like, Vaught is so airheaded that he wouldn't know that the satrap is creepy as hell. Like, he wouldn't understand that. He doesn't get that. He sees the bottom line.
He was completely stupid.
Okay, I agree.
But I think underlying, he really did think he was helping them. He really did care for the family.
Okay, I buy it. Thank you guys. I so
As
happy
opposed to the satrap and whatever the dad's name is.
Kyle.
Yeah. Kyle and the satrap. I would like them to have very painful deaths.
I will say that it was nice to have a book that wasn't full of Kyle, though. Like, it was nice to take a break from him for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
I
so
prefer Kyle to the satrap, though. So
Because it's a more honest villain than
Yeah.
like honest,
because
but like
it's the
he
same
truly
thing.
is a villain and not just a stupid.
Because Kyle is a horrible person, and it makes you feel powerless when you read him, and I absolutely hate that. But again, it comes back to he does actually care about his family. Like he's doing about it the absolute wrong way. And he's an absolute jerk, but he does love his family.
Well, I don't know about his son. I did not feel any love for his son, but
Yeah.
I do know he loves his wife and his daughter.
Yeah.
I
So
think the things he did to his son were so horrific, you know.
But I mean, he thinks he's trying
he's
to
doing the
help
right
his
thing.
son.
Mhm.
Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like those parents that say, "Oh, my child is gay. I'm going to send them to
Fucking yeah.
Somewhere where they'll preach
Conversion
gay-
therapy places.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
that
It's
same
that kind of thing. Mhm. Yeah. So I absolutely hate him. There is no part of me that likes that guy,
Nope.
but I hate the satrap more.
Yeah.
The giving a woman to be raped because she won't sleep with you
Yeah.
made him automatically the top of my absolute hatred list.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was awful. That was awful.
We haven't really touched on what supposedly this book is supposed to be about, which is the Mad Ship Paragon.
Paragon and Amber. I
Um,
want to talk about Amber too.
And Amber and Althea and Brashton, because, you know, I really expected more than what I got in this book in
Yeah,
regards to their storyline.
I don't think we ended Matship, did we? I mean, he's still out there.
No, I mean, all we really got was that Amber ended up being able to strike a deal to buy him, and that they did, you know, renovations and refittings to him, and they got him in the water. In reality, that's about all we got out of it. There's, you know, we get a little bit more of his memories, like when that serpent comes to the ship. And at first, everything seems to be okay. And then there's one crew member that attacks it. And so then it attacks the ship and all of that. And he freaks out because he's got some kind of memory. And I'm trying to remember because there was something that it told us there. But that, you know, that was about the extent of it in regards to what happened in his past. We know now that it had to do something with serpents and that he capsized. But other than that, we still don't really have the whole story.
No, we
Other than-
don't. Because they're off to try to catch the first Vivica.
Vivica.
And so we've kind of been left there with them off to try to rescue her.
Right. But all we know is that they're outside of the harbor. Other than that,
Yeah,
we don't, you know, I think they're planning to head over to the Pirate Islands, but that was about the only reference.
I really like that ship, and you know, when they were talking about can you fix his eyes and stuff like that, I would hope that they could, and that's what I was waiting for, was to see if Amber could repair him, you know, and she's saying no, she can't, and that kind of made me sad.
Well, it'll be interesting to see because Amber was working on removing that, what was it, a 5-star?
Yeah, the tattoo or the thing that's burned, which, hey, that was burned into Kenneth's hip or something too. Kenneth has the same tattoo, the same star.
Okay,
On the
yeah.
one leg he has left.
So that's why you think it was that pirate that took over.
Because
I think
Kenneth
it'll
didn't
be
put
it.
that tattoo on himself. The person that abused him did it. And that star is also branded into Paragon.
Read that part again. I don't remember anything about the star.
Brashen especially got really mad when he found out that Amber was hanging over the side of Paragon. There was like nobody there to like make sure everything was okay and this and that. And there's a whole scene in regards to that. She was not working on the eyes, but she was testing things out with working on, you know, kind of removing or sanding down that star. I wonder if that's going to release him from, I don't know. I just have thoughts.
I have thoughts about that too. And it has a lot to do with the mad ship, the concept of the mad ship. So we've learned a lot about the serpents. We've learned that wizard wood is made from the serpent cocoon. Rain's starting to hear because he's getting screwed up by the dragon. When he's on that other mad ship, he's hearing what the wizard wood is actually saying to him from the original serpent or from the original dragon.
The original dragon.
I think that Paragon is reverting back to those memories. And that's what makes a mad ship mad, is they're starting to revert back to the memories of when they were actually a ship. So like they're fighting with it because they've got this figurehead self that thinks the way the traders think, but then they've also got these memories of being these serpents and these dragons. Whatever happened to him that gave him that star, it threw him out of his happy little trader brain and made him remember things. And that's what made him so mad, I think, or at least had started the process of making him mad.
He definitely was made from the cocoon, which was the wizard wood cocoon, and it carries the memories of all these previous dragons, as we've learned. He is starting to remember, and I don't know if you guys remember, there was a comment about how he has silver in his beard, like some of the wood is silver.
Yes.
And like Amber asked him about it, but he doesn't know. But then in the epilogue with the serpents, they actually reference the silver ones, as in like the ones that they've kind of lost, but there's the silver ones that have some of the memories, but they're different. And
well, yeah, what's really sad to me is that you realize that each of these ships are made out of the wildwood are dragons that have been killed. They're dead. They'll never come back. That's why they took that one derelict live ship and sunk it. The serpents did, because they all recognize these ships. They have a feeling when they come up with these live ships that they recognize that they probably could have become dragons, but they've been killed by being turned into these ships. So it was heartbreaking to see that.
Well, and their memories are still there.
Yeah.
And what an interesting way for Robin Hobb to make us feel uncomfortable and contradictory, because we're rooting for the traders the whole way through. In the beginning, you hit this point where it's like, wait a minute, what happened to these dragons, these serpents, is so horrific that being created into these live ships, which the traders worship, they think this is like made for them, meant for them. They think that they're in the right. And in reality, they're not. Like
they don't know it. The
But
traders
they
have
don't
no
know it
idea
yet.
where it's from.
well, the
Yeah, they
Rainwilders
don't.
do.
That
They have to.
there was always a question of whether those guys were good or not, though. So
But I mean, I don't mean that. I'm not trying to say the traders are bad. I'm just saying, how contradictory is that? Because we're rooting for them for so long, and now you're like, I can't really root for them because it is wrong what's happening. It's not that that's their fault, but you don't want them to win because it's not going to help the serpents or the dragons at this point.
Yeah, the dragons, they're being killed in their cocoons by being turned into live chips. So the question I have was, they were saying that last piece of wood that was in that big house or wherever it was
In the
very
city.
last piece. Does that mean there's no more wildwood left anywhere on this planet? Do you think?
Yes and no.
I mean, at the moment,
serpents,
when the serpents start cocooning,
Right. So, I mean, we haven't necessarily gotten to it other than that they referenced that they're trying to get up the Rainwild River so that they can then start cocooning. The serpents that we still have, and, they're gathering more and more together. I forget what they call themselves. When they get up the river and they actually bury in to do their metamorphosis, kind of like caterpillar to butterfly.
It's not trees. It is a real cocoon. These things swirl together and make this wildwood.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, each one gets in their own cocoon. Then they go through the winter, basically doing like what a caterpillar does with a butterfly. And then
I get that.
And the sun hits them in the spring or whatever, and then supposedly the dragons are born. At least that's what they led us to believe.
I kept thinking there
with
were
the
actual
serpents
trees
talking at the end there.
forests that. Boy.
So yes, that was the last wizard wood when they exposed it to the sun and the dragon flew out. But there is the possibility of there being more if and when those serpents actually are able to do their natural process
Oh man, I missed that. I was
And they
thinking it was trees.
and they haven't been able to because She Who Remembers has been stuck by the oracles on that freaking island.
Do you
Right.
think that's the only one that She Who Remembers? Because they meet each ship and they go, oh, I can sense She Who Remembers in there.
Right. The rest have been turned into ships. So she's the only one who still remembers that is not turned into a ship, who could direct them back to the
Oh.
grounds where they lay their cocoons.
So again, in this ending scene with the serpents, they kind of remember how they're supposed to have a guide, like a serpent guide, that helps them get to where they need to go. And then
Oh,
they're also, but once they're in cocoons or cocooning, they're supposed to have a dragon guardian that watches over them. Up until the end, there were none. There were no guides and there were no dragons. And now we've got She Who Remembers, which I can't remember what her actual name is, and the dragon that have both
oh, wow,
Correct.
yeah.
basically come alive or been escaped from wherever they were. So hopefully they'll be able to help and do what is necessary to
Bring back
guide
dragon.
them the rest of their way.
And Tintaglia, the dragon, I think that's her name, she does absorb the cocoon, the wizard wood. She starts absorbing it during that process where she's
Right.
metamorphosing from the wizard wood into the dragon.
You know, I knew that the serpents were significant because she kept having them interspersed all throughout this book. And like I said, my misconception was that the wizard wood was actually trees that they cut down and made into boats. You know, I missed some of that. I didn't realize, the significance of a lot of things that are going on. So it is good to talk about books, really is. You read stuff, and until you hear other people's input, you may not have gotten the same thing out of the book.
So Amy, you had wanted to talk more about Amber. What were your thoughts that we kind of interrupted?
I don't really understand what her purpose is. Like, what is her goal? Who is she? Where is she? I mean, we think she's from the Six Duckies, but is she really? And part of me wonders if she's part elderling. Like, I have this weird feeling that she comes from something else.
Either that or she's got some kind of knowledge about what's going on or what's going to happen or what needs to happen, and that she's kind of trying to guide things in that direction, whether that she's an elderling or if she's, what is it when you, not a telepath, but
Empath?
no, that's emotional. When you get flashes of the future or whatever, I get the sense that she's got some kind of knowledge because she's always looking for information from everybody. And then she has like little like spots of recognition or, of like, yeah, that's supposed to like be that way, or, something needs to change, or I don't know, but there's something going on there.
So my question is, are there still elderlings left? Because it seems to me that when they were going along that path, and I don't know whether the second book, the last book or this book, they're going along that path and they find this city and all the people in there are ghosts. So it's almost like, are there elderlings left? Or like maybe Magda says, maybe some imprints have been left on some of the humans that are left because the elderlings are no longer there. I thought elderlings were dragons, to be honest with you. I didn't realize
they were.
So
no.
when
I thought they were.
No, elderlings were the people that kind of helped the dragons and took care of the dragons. They're shaped differently than regular people, but they're not. They're like people, but they're not people.
It's precognition, by the way. I knew
Oh,
clairvoyance,
thank
but clairvoyance is the touching things and getting the
Oh,
sight.
okay.
okay, yeah.
Sorry, that's what I was focused on.
Okay, no
Nice
worries.
job.
Robin Hobb has a couple of like short stories or whatever, right? And so we had read The Inheritance, which quite honestly it didn't do much for me in regards to telling me anything more. But what was it called now, Amy?
Homecoming.
For those who are reading the series, they really need to read Homecoming, because I did read that, and I'm not going to give anything away other than to say that it answers a lot of those questions, Sharon.
Okay.
as to what the city is and all of that.
in this book.
And yeah, in the
Okay, I'll do
inheritance
that.
book. It starts off as a way of letting us know how the Rainwild came about. So it tells us about the Rainwild people and how they came about, which is interesting of itself. But then it also tells us a lot about the city. And they're the ones that kind of figure out what the city is and so on. So
That reminds me, in the very first trilogy, didn't that prince go off to the north to try to find the elderlings to help fight the red ships?
yes.
But
Yeah.
we really don't know anything about the elderlings at that point.
So all he finds are, and this was an interesting point that I learned in this book, he found the effigies to the dragons. Those things that came alive in the Farseer trilogy are not actually dragons. Like, we thought they're dragons, everybody thinks they're dragons, but Paragon keeps saying, like, those aren't dragons. Because Amber's like, they're the dragons that I saw that went over, da, da, da. And Paragon's like, those aren't dragons. They're not really dragons. And it's because Paragon realized, he remembers, he has the memories of what those things were. And those were actually what the elderlings created. Those were statues the elderlings created in honor of the dragons. And they put their whole life into it to give those statues life, but they weren't actually, they're just statues that have the soul or the essence of the elderlings in them. And so when we think that those are dragons in the first series, they're not, which I didn't know until I read this. That answered a lot of questions I didn't quite understand from the Farseer trilogy.
I guess that makes sense. The prince was carving a stone to make a dragon. So I guess that makes sense that he wasn't making a dragon. He was making a statue of a dragon. And then if you put enough of yourself in it, you can bring it alive for a time, I guess.
But I wouldn't have known that just from reading Farseer trilogy. I wouldn't have known that without the explanation in this. The whole elderling, him going to that whole area, I felt like was really unclear to me, even at the end of Farseer trilogy.
Homecoming is supposed to be read 9.5.
Really?
Oh, that's way later on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it really gives anything away to read it sooner than that. For me, it really helped me understand what happens, towards the end in Madship, and it answers some of those questions that we have. I mean, 9.5 would be
right before the Rainwild.
Right before you start, the Rainwild series.
9.5 is right before, the Rainwild Chronicles. That's when they suggest you read it according to the Goodreads.
Thank you.
Okay.
So
I was curious because I was like, I know I read The Inheritance in the reading order. So where's Homecoming?
Yeah, I know. I just, when hello, blind person here. So, it's my first foray into actual physical reading. And I just, popped over to the Robin Hobb section of Inheritance.
Mm-mm.
And I didn't even realize that it was called what it was.
Yeah.
I just thought that was the Inheritance that I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I finished and then the Inheritance actually came up. Then I'm like, okay, well, then why is it out of order in the Inheritance? Why wasn't Inheritance first and then Homecoming?
Oh, that's confusing.
That is
Hey, so I have a question about the Wildwood again, or these cocoons. Wizardwood. So do you think Rain's mother knew that was a dragon in that cocoon and that's what was driving her son? And, she wanted her son to stop paying attention to it. Do you think they knew they were destroying dragons when they made these ships? Because they're the ones that made the ships, right?
I don't think they knew that the dragons could last that long in the cocoons. I think they genuinely thought that the dragons were dead because they had never come along, hatched. I don't think they actually thought that they were killing something that was alive still.
Right.
Michelle doesn't look sure though.
No, just thinking.
The mother knew stuff.
Trying to remember because she knew something because she didn't think that Rain was making everything up.
Right.
So they knew something.
And they tried to get him away from there because they were afraid he was going to release the dragon.
No, they were afraid he was going to go mad like his dad did.
Mm.
Oh, Okay.
But I don't know if it was clear that it was because they knew the dragon was still in there,
I don't think that was clear. I think they were more
or if
worried,
it was like the memories of it.
yeah, that he was getting too lost in the memories.
Oh,
And that's how his dad died. Because again, they reference in the end that his dad just one day was sitting against the wall and he had all these little blocks of like black squares all around him and stuff. And he basically had just kind of faded away. And they were worried that Rain was going to do the same thing, which is why Rain never really admitted that he could hear the voices. But they were still worried about him always wanting to be in the city.
Yeah. And it was
okay.
fair because she was driving him to the point where he was going to go crazy.
Don't you think it was weird that he was able to introduce Malta to it, and then Malta actually was stronger and able to deal with the voice and actually able to help the voice?
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
and
but Malta hadn't been putting up with it as long as he had been putting up with it. Imagine if you have someone, I'm not saying he's okay for this, but imagine if you had someone in your head taunting you and giving you a hard time 24/7, and he didn't think he had the ability to help her in any way. I mean, Malta's obviously smarter, but I mean, you got to remember, she's harassing him 24/7.
Yeah, he can't sleep. He can't, you know.
He's drinking himself silly so that he can get away from how much she's haunting him. So he drinks himself drunk every night so that he doesn't. I mean, it's going to drive him to insanity. Like, it's impossible not to. I've got to say, Malta was my favorite part of this book. I think Malta was my favorite part,
especially considering the growth. Yeah, I think so too, which is shocking to me, actually.
I also started enjoying Etta. She started out in the whorehouse. He took her out to help her, and he wasn't going to even keep her, but she became a good sailor. She became smart and did a lot of stuff to help everybody. So she was also another growth that I wasn't expecting, high growth for a strong woman.
I feel like she's just in a lose-lose situation at this point, though.
Yeah, she loves the captain, and he's kind of
using her more than anything. I think probably the least favorite storyline at this point for me would be Wintro, because I feel he's obviously struggling. I think him and Vivacia, Vivacia wants to become a pirate. Wintro is just, I'm not sure where he's going to end up, because he's in such a balancing act right now between the good and the bad. And he's got feelings where he's likes being bad, but I don't know.
How about
Yeah.
My least favorite storyline?
Or your favorite?
Malta was my favorite, weirdly enough. I did find all of the politics a little slow getting through.
Yeah.
That was probably the slowest part for me. I kind of got a little fed up with Althea and Brashton, or whatever their names are.
Yeah, that's who they
I
are.
was like, all right, just let me go back to Malta. She's actually doing some interesting stuff right now. You guys are just being ridiculous.
It is funny because I was really excited about Althea's and Brashton's storyline in the first book, and this book, you're right. I was a lot less interested in their storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's this kind of push-pull, but we're not really getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Their whole storyline just kind of stalled.
Yeah, and so did the Madship. I really want to see what's going to happen with Paragon, and then also Amber. I feel like you said, she may be somebody really important. She may be the memory of an elderling or something like that. I
There's
feel
something
like
going on there. Yeah.
And I really root for Paragon. I feel like he's just been shit upon for so many years, and the way his people gave him away, sold him. It just broke his heart because they're so attached to their families, that have died on him. They have all those memories. And then that woman just sold him. I feel like we've got a story there that's got to go all the way through to the end, and we're not there.
What do you think's going to happen to Wintro, considering he's covered in all that gunk?
What gunk now?
In the end, when he saves She Who Remembers, He's like on the brink
Oh.
of death.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah, their spittle.
It never comes back to that. And I'm like, well, what's happening with Winter?
I'm sure Vivacia helps.
Just because like we get that really dramatic scene. It's really, really dramatic. And then we go away from it and we don't get anything else after that. Sometimes the pacing was off in this one. In this one, I feel like you go from this crazy, crazy scene to something that was like, boop, like politics, you know? And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. I'm still kind of, my adrenaline's still going for this scene. Why can't we go back to that?
Yeah.
We know Kyle has to come back because they made a point of not killing him.
Yeah.
So I feel like Kyle's going to make his way back home. And I think Wintro is going to come back at some point. And
well,
his
Winter
wife,
has to come back because he's on Vivacia. So
and
know
his
Vivacia
wife
will
is
be
going to see what Kyle did to Wintro.
yeah.
I think that's gonna
that
change
Mark is his
some
slave.
drastic changes. That's my hope. I know Hobb can just do whatever she wants and destroy me, but my hope, because I cannot see how Kyle can talk himself out of Wintro coming home.
Yeah, no.
You think that Malta will see Kyle for what he is now that he's had all these experiences?
I don't know.
Don't know. Depends on if she actually ever leaves the Rain Wild.
I do. I totally do. Because
I
by the
think
end of this book, she realizes that they could only depend on themselves, that her mother, her grandmother, all of them, that they're the powerful ones. Whether that's fair or not, if Kyle came back and started trying to boss her around, I think she would stand up against it. I don't think she'd accept it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm
think
looking
Kyle
forward to
might
that
even-
I'm looking forward to that scene actually.
Well, and I think Kyle will either do something or not do something that so disappoints her, it completely breaks that image she has of him being this wonderful person.
You think Althea will end up with
Vivacia?
her sister will give it up because of Kyle being such an ass?
Do you
Yeah.
think that if Althea knew the reality of live ships, she would feel the same way she feels about live ships now?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. Because no matter what, I mean, you're not changing that ship into a dragon.
Right.
Yeah.
And she has that familiar connection with that ship.
It'll be interesting if Althea will be able to bond with Vivacia, because Vivacia is also changing so much.
Yeah.
And
That-
Vivacia doesn't like her
And,
anymore.
Do you think she'll stay with Kennick then?
Kind of what she seems, unless Kenneth does something drastic. I think that if Althea gets to Vivacia, I think she's going to be disappointed because I don't think Vivacia is going to welcome her with open arms.
No. Vivacia's turning into her own person, and she
Yeah.
likes having her own choices. She doesn't have to worry about what Wintro wants anymore. She doesn't have to worry about what the trader families want anymore. She's becoming her own thing, and I think she likes that a lot.
Yeah.
And Kenneth's
don't-
encouraging that.
Mm-hmm.
as
Which I-
Amber is with Paragon.
And
Which I don't think is going to work the way he wants it to.
Well, I'm sorry. Said one more
Amber's
time.
having Paragon become his own person too, I think.
Yeah, she's encouraging Paragon to think for himself.
He's moreless. His family let him go, so he could become anything he wants to.
Yeah.
He's remembering too much, though. He's too volatile.
There's nothing the ships can do. I mean, they can't transform into serpents or transform into dragons. I mean, that's all they can be is the ships. So
Well, that one that was derelict, he allowed the serpents to tear him
Eat
up
'em,
and
yeah.
eat him. So
That's
I
the
mean,
thing.
that ship could be eaten
that's
too.
your other option.
But that's the thing is like I feel like they're gonna be like, well, this is what I was supposed to be. I'm not this. That one ship when he realized what he was supposed to be, he was so depressed. He's like, just kill me, just take me, eat me.
I don't think
Well, and-
Paragon and Vivacia, I think they are too
Strong.
their own persons at this point, and they like being their own people. Well, maybe
Yeah.
not Paragon as much, but definitely Vivacia. I can't see Vivacia going, oh yeah, okay, eat me.
You know, Madship is
I don't see her doing it.
Madship is making friends and seeing that people like him. That may keep him from wanting to be eaten.
He's a hard one just because he suffers so much with depression. That's a harder one to call.
Yeah.
But I don't think that Vivacia would just die
No.
from the memory. I think she's quite
not gonna
happy being her own ship.
Yeah. Well, she's so young.
Being a
She
pirate.
doesn't-
Very young.
What did you say, Mom?
She likes being a pirate.
She does.
She just likes the compliments from the captain.
Kenneth. Oh, Kenneth.
She's in love. She's a young lady in love.
She is.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine Kenneth's like not making love to the ship, but he's basically wooing the ship and giving her all these false senses of like, oh, I love you, Vivacia, but she's a ship.
Yeah.
All he can touch is her arms and boobs. There's nothing, lips. There's nothing else there for him to mess with.
Mom, you don't have to go that far.
Sorry, I'm a dirty old lady. You cut that out.
Is this when I say that I don't think guys need that much?
Oh, you're right.
Oh dear. This is
Oh,
devolving
dear.
very
Cut the
quickly.
whole part out. You're right, Shell.
Any predictions that we haven't already mentioned or that you want to reiterate?
I think that Ship of Destiny is going to be more focused on Paragon and Vivacia versus Bingtown. They lead us to believe with the synopsis that they're going up the Rainwild River. So I think we might find out a little bit more of what goes on that way. I think, as we mentioned, Kenneth has to come back somehow. In what way? I don't know.
No, Kyle, you mean the dad?
I mean, yeah, sorry, Kyle. All these names that have like the same. I'm hoping that we find out more about Amber. I'm really hoping to find out Paragon's story. We still haven't heard all of it, and I want to know what it is. I guess that's it.
Malta, maybe we'll end up with the rain guy or no guy. She's a strong woman on her own. Oh, you know, I'm curious about their people are still paying for these ships and they're still supposed to pay on Vivacia.
Vivacia?
What's going to happen there? Now that Kenneth has it and he's not going to make any payments on it, can you just grab one of those ships and stop paying the Rain Wild people?
The family still has to. They made an arrangement.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
No, Johnny said because Rain brought her back, they have forgiven that. That was the agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
The debt's
there's
been
no-
forgiven. The debt's been forgiven.
Yeah. it's
But
been
that's
forgiven.
hers, not everybody else's.
Not
I mean,
everybody
like if your ship gets stolen, I think you're still responsible for the debt because
Yeah.
you have an agreement and those things used to mean something.
Wow, Kenneth lucked out. He's got a ship. He never had to pay for it, and it likes him. You know, he just.
Here's the creepy thing about Kenneth, though. He's following in the footsteps of Ivan. Ivan, the one who abused him.
Yeah.
Ivan, the one who stole the live ship. Ivan, the one who did all these horrible things. Kenneth is doing the exact same stuff that Ivan is doing. Why is he doing that? Why is he trying to be Ivan, who is this horrible villain that treated him so badly?
Well, you've seen a lot of people that are abused become abusers also.
But he won't ever go that route. He was pretty
No.
clear that he would never go that route.
But it's like,
And I
why
guess-
is he trying to take over this horrible man's legacy?
He's not after that legacy. He really wants to be Pirate King.
Yeah.
Oh,
But he
that's
wants to
true.
be a good Pirate King in his own way,
And he-
in
and he
his
thinks-
own mind.
And he thinks a live ship will give it to him more than anything else.
Yeah, he thinks that'll help unite the pirates behind him.
And it may.
And that's his whole goal, is to be Pirate King, to be
Yeah.
respected by everybody. He's not really going after his legacy. He wants to go after his legacy, but do it better.
That's right. Well, yeah, it just seems
Where
like
he failed.
it seems like he's trying to do the exact same things aside from the abuse.
But he wants to do it in a I can't
Magnanimous
freaking
way.
say that word.
Magnanimous.
Yes, that one. Yeah, he wants to be loved, but Ivan was
Yeah.
feared. He wants to do the same thing but be loved, and therefore one up the guy who did all that horrible stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with predictions for this one because I feel like it could go anyway. There's so many possibilities.
Well, we also have the serpents. I mean, they were in so much of this book, and we haven't predicted what's going to happen, except for I suspect they're going to be guided now to their birthing ground. They're going to turn into cocoons, and we're going to have a lot more dragons, because that's what I think is going to happen.
Well,
I'm
if it's
dragon.
anything like the last one, the last trilogy, the third one is going to go one direction and then randomly go off in a completely other direction. And we will be sitting there going, what just happened?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm actually really excited about it because I think, like you said, Magda, I think we didn't get enough answers in this one. I think we're going to get a lot more answers in the third one. Maybe not all the answers, because we didn't get all the answers in Farseer Trilogy. So I think, the nice thing about this is we're reading them in order, so we get to learn a little bit more as we go along. I think that this one will give us a lot more of the answers we need for right now.
I hope so.
I think that she intentionally wrote them this way.
Have you marveled about this woman having these stories with all these stories within stories in her head? I told Amy one day, I says, after reading that Mad Ship, I'm like, there were like 6 different storylines in there. She's spinning all these plates on these little sticks. How in the world can one person do this? How can they have all these stories in them? And I mean, are they all written in this order? Or does she write? It's fascinating to me. I could never be an author. I don't have any stories in me. And she's got multiple stories.
I want you to read Wheel of Time, Sharon.
What's that?
I want you to read
cruel.
Wheel of Time.
That's
Is
mean.
it really got
You're
a
a
lot
bully.
of stories?
That's not mean. It's a classic. It is a sci-fi classic with a million different stories.
Yeah.
I mean, same with Game of Thrones. Any of those really high fantasy ones have like 20 million storylines interlinking with each other.
And Wheel of Time, yeah. I think that's way more complex than Robin Hobb's books. Not that they're not,
Yeah.
but in terms of complexity and the way he weaved things throughout all the books, like it's him, I'm pretty sure he had like listening to Brandon Sanderson talk about it, Robert Jordan's notes were extensive. Like when he had to take over writing the series, like there were boxes and boxes of this guy's notes on his books and where he would go, and oh yeah, lots of writings.
Yeah, I would sit there and have a graph, I think, with all these things, and I'd lose my way, even with a graph.
And that's not mean. It's a classic.
A classic that has how many books in the series, Shell? 13,
like
14?
13.
And the books are like this big.
Your mom would like it. She's not you.
I know. We should point out that when Mom decided to join us for Robin Hobb, she read all the books up until this one within less than a month.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't.
I wasn't going to join you guys because I was looking at how fat those books were, and I kept hearing Amy say, these books are so big. And I'm like, I don't mind reading big books, but I mean, I had to read 3, 4 to catch up to you guys. And I had to read them as quickly as possible so I could join you.
The Wheel of Time books are good. Like, I wouldn't say they're like twice the size, but they're like, they're big. There's some pretty big books in there.
Well, if I do, I'll do it the last half of the year. I'm enjoying our book club, and the witches one we're just reading this month. I read that I started on the 1st and had it done by the 4th.
Discovery Witches, yeah.
And right now I'm enjoying romances. That's all I'm reading. I'm just reading a million of them, and February's over. I need to stop. This was fun. Thank you guys. You really helped me understand more of the book. I think because I was trying to read really fast, I missed stuff. So definitely talking about this helped me get some perspective that I had lost.
It's a lot of details for sure.
So read Ship of Destiny a little bit slower so you get all of it.
I'm
And
waiting
of course,
until
that means you
she's
have to read it
50
around
pages away.
80 so many pages a day.
I know
but-
Amy's going to be reading it every day. So then I need to pick it up and read like 5 or 7 chapters. And then she'll pick it up the next day, read 26 pages. I'll pick it up, read 5 or 6 chapters, and she'll read 26. We're
There
going to
you
be
go.
playing. We can do it.
Say that again because I got to cut out my middle finger.
I didn't see that. Can't wait till the next one. These are fun. I'm really enjoying it.
That I hope she gives me an ending that I can like better than the first trilogy.
Good luck.
Yeah, Shell was not impressed with Assassin's Quest. I remember that. We'll see. We'll see.
I wasn't.
I've heard that once we get to the full series, like one of the first or the second book, people cry so hard. And I'm like, what the heck happens that people cry so
And what
hard?
book?
Are you talking about the next trilogy or
Yeah, the next trilogy. So Golden Fool, I think maybe it was.
Oh God.
Don't tell me that.
That's what I've heard.
I
Like,
haven't cried.
That's the one where I've heard most people cry the most for. So that's what we have to
Wow.
look forward to, guys.
Woohoo!
Don't- The
5
only one I might
stars.
have cried at was number 2, and even then, I don't know if I cried or not. I know you did, but I don't know if I did.
Oh, I did.
I
That would have been the only one that I
cried
can't.
both in the second and the third one, both.
Oh, I didn't cry in the third one.
But I bawled at the end of the second one. I know that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I don't think you did, Shell, and Mom definitely didn't. I remember she was like, she cried at other parts. She cried at other
We
parts.
have no hearts.
I have no heart. But you
have
know,
no heart.
some of the things that were going on, I mean, the thing that Amy told me she cried about, I was like, yeah, that was sad, but there's so many sad things. Everything's sad.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for reading this with me and having so much patience with me for this last mad ship. But the Ship of Destiny is not going to be like that. It's not going to be like that because I'm getting through that book. I'm excited.
Famous last words.
Yeah, shush.
I just said that I would wait until you were 50 pages from the end, and then I will start reading.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably finish at the same time.
Yeah, you're probably
Oh.
right.
My audiobook says it's 32 hours long.
Oh,
So yeah, when you're at about 50 pages, that should be good.
you guys are all my favorites, really.
You know, it has occurred to me that the people that you are the closest with are like really fast readers. Like, how did you do that?
I don't know. I don't know. It's not really fair, is it?
It really isn't.
It really isn't.
So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so that you can see what happens when we get through Ship of Destiny. Woohoo! I'm so excited. All right. Well, thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.